one thing I've been wanting to know, and I'm anticipating you won't be able to, and you won't want to speak on behalf of Brian Steele, but when he on June 10th, when he was actually taken into custody for, I mean, maybe 40 minutes or so, he was back. Was he actually back in a holding cell? I mean, I'd love to just be able to ask him this himself, but he was definitely in custody.
My understanding, yeah, my understanding is he was in a holding cell. It's weird because, I care so much about Brian as, an individual and a friend. So, when all that was going on, it's almost like people that are witnesses to something say they kind of black out and don't remember too much. I was so focused on what was going on in the case, what was going on with my friend, what the next step to make sure my friend is not incarcerated for 20 days. I was so focused on those things. Like, I honestly don't have much of a recollection other than I've seen a tape of him giving me his car keys and then he disappeared. So yes, I think the record, the video reflects that he was in fact in the holding cell. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's important when recounting the acts of June 10th that we emphasize that while yes he got his jail sentence stayed, which I think everyone just kind of assumed that the appellate court would act on that, would stay that sentence pending appeal. He was in custody for a little bit, and at the time it was really unknown up until basically court adjourned at 7:30 p.m. whether he was going to go to jail that night. And if Glanville had ordered him to jail that night, it's not like the Supreme Court would have had time to step in the 30 minutes between court adjourning and him having to go to jail. So it seemed like it was a real cliffhanger of whether he would actually be taken into custody. Did I accurately convey the stress of that moment?
The man handed me his car keys and gave me instructions. So it was as real as that to me. So I didn't know of any magic ending that was coming, that it was in the bag. I didn't know what was going to happen. And quite frankly, I thought that Keith Adams was going to go up there and the same thing was going to happen. And I thought I was going to go up third and the same thing was going to happen. So I was, I texted my wife and said, I might not be home tonight.
Wow.
And I assumed that I was going to be in the holding cell with Brian and Keith.
Wow.
So it didn't play out that way, thankfully. And I'm glad too many people spend time in jail. I don't need to prove my cred by going to serve a silly sentence. So I'm glad it didn't happen. But but I thought that was a real possibility.
Yeah. And I know Brian was quite memorable when he asked that he be housed with Jeffrey, his client, because, they're in constant communication. And Glanville said, I mean, he didn't really have any power over that. But what are the chances of that actually happening? I mean, if he'd been taken to jail that night, I mean, I don't know. Would you have been housed with Shannon?
Would I have been? I would have asked. But I don't know. I don't know what would happen. I think that probably there's some accommodations maybe that are. I don't think that we would just be randomly sent to a cell, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I've never been held in contempt. So I don't know how that would have played. That to happen, it could have been. It could have been done.
And do you see, at least that moment, it seemed to me that was the moment that the national press started paying attention to this trial a little bit more. I mean, they should have been paying attention to it all along, but did you notice a significant uptick in national attention after June 10th?
I did. And we're really at an interesting time because, we've been kind of screaming about this, not just about, I know a lot of the focus has been on, the way people have been treated and different things that have happened. But, just from the get-go, like the RICO statute and
Yeah.
just the inherent unfairness of that. And I just kind of feel like things did start to change around that point. And you know, people are paying more attention now. We're on the radar. People are aware that people that normally have faith in the system and the institutions, you know, around the system, when they see this case, I see more and more people questioning it. Not just, you know, quote unquote young thug fans, but people that just believe in fundamental fairness, believe in the Constitution. And then, you know, when Alec Baldwin, you know, Shannon Stillwell and Alec Baldwin could not be more dissimilar in many ways. But then when that happens and Alec Baldwin's case gets dismissed, then,
Yes.
you know, I see people saying, well, what about, you know, what about YSL? What about Jeffrey? What about Shannon? And, you know, and I try to remind everyone, well, there's other people too. You know, what about Lil Rod? What about DeMonte? You
Hmm.
know, what about the two Quays? And so I think people are starting to pay attention. And you know, that's why I appreciate y'all bringing the truth out to the people, because I think there's just a lot of people that have concerns about the way our criminal justice system is run and have been paying attention to this case, and it's kind of confirmed some of the fears that we've all had.